Hello and welcome once again to Civil Engineering Today. I'm Anna Cristina Fregoso.
And I'm Reed Brockman.
And we're brought to you by the Boston Society of Civil Engineers. Today we have a special guest with us. We've been talking a lot about infrastructure report cards that the ASC puts out every several years, but we've never really gone in depth into one particular grading area that they do. And one of the important ones is transportation, and that's a word that we're hearing a lot of, especially recently we're hearing a lot of it. So we wanted to look really closely into transportation.
Right, now I want to preface this a little bit that both Anna Cristina and I that's our life, is dealing with transportation infrastructure. Every day and every night I'm looking at structures that need work or things that need improvement. And the state of the transportation infrastructure, not just for us, but everybody in the driving public, it becomes a...
Well, we have a very special guest with us who's been involved in transportation planning for a very, very long time. He's a partially retired, yes. Partially retired project engineer with HNTV, which is a local firm, but they're national as well.
Firm, yes. Yeah.
So we want to say welcome.
Thank you.
Dennis,
delighted to be here.
At Dennis Coffey, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Okay, and we usually start the show very basic. Like we said, we're going to get really as in-depth as we can into a particular theme, and it's transportation. So help us define exactly transportation and infrastructure. What exactly does that embody? What does it mean?
Well, Anna Cristina and Reed, I think you bring up a very important thing for the general public to understand. We use these terms like infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, and those are a bit esoteric, I think. What really we're talking about is the public system by which people get around. How do we get to where we're going? How do we go places in Massachusetts and in this country? And what we use is a highway system. We use public transit. And these things require a capital investment that's been made in our transportation network of those highways, roadways, bridges, railways, and the signal systems to support them, the traffic signals as well as those signals that regulate the railroads and the transit systems. So these are all part of the infrastructure that we're talking about. But the bottom line is, it's how we get to where we need to go.
Okay, so it's more than just cars.
Yes.
Right.
It's absolutely more than just cars.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. It's good to hear the
Yes.
full definition of it. And like I said, we talk about the infrastructure report card, but we never get specific. So tell us, how is Massachusetts doing? What kind of state are we in as far as our transportation and in the supporting infrastructure?
Right. Well, Massachusetts is working very hard at trying to address the very serious issues that they face. And in 2009, they created MassDOT out of a bunch of other disparate agencies. And what we've seen under MassDOT is a more consolidated effort to address very, very serious issues, because for many, many years, unfortunately, we borrowed money to just maintain the basic elements of our transportation network, so that of the 5,120 bridges that MassDOT is responsible for, the Federal Highway Administration has defined over half of those as being functionally obsolete.
Over half.
Over half. And what does functionally obsolete mean?
Right.
It doesn't mean it's going to fall down tomorrow morning, but what it means is it doesn't meet today's requirements in terms of, for example, the weight situation, heavy trucks going over it. Sometimes lane width is inadequate.
Yes.
Pavement conditions. It might not have bike and pedestrian lanes. And so, over half of those MassDOT bridges need to be upgraded to make them suitable for the mobility needs of the people today.
Also, just the weight to get over a bridge sometimes.
That's right.
Capacity limit right there.
That's right.
That
That's
can be a
right.
good time.
Yep.
So, you say over 50% functioning obsolete, and that's just bridges.
Yes.
Do we have any other
Well, the
statistics?
pavement condition
The pavements.
is certainly another factor.
And that's yearly, really.
Well, yes, it should be in many cases. And so, what MassDOT has been able to do in the past several years is to increase the level of effort that they've done with pavement. However, they are still behind the 8 ball in terms of where we ought to be. And you know, as I define it, mobility means getting people around. And as you alluded to, Anna Christina, you know, if a bridge is out of service or if it's reduced from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, you know, that creates congestion. And congestion means delays. Delays mean time lost, and time lost is people's money.
Oh yes, absolutely. You pay for that gas as you're sitting idle.
That's
You're
right.
Still paying for it.
That's right.
So, okay, so other than our pockets, we have to worry about the actual costs. I mean, we're on a world stage now. We're competing for materials and resources
Yes.
on a world stage. And just in my short time in the industry, I've seen price increases that are
Yes.
kind of incredible. So can you tell us where does a lot of the funding for this come
Right.
from? How are we getting funded?
Well, the way we fund our transportation systems here in Massachusetts and pretty much throughout the United States is through the gas tax that we pay each time we buy a gallon of gas at the pump. And so there's a federal tax, which is managed through the Highway Trust Fund. Well, the Highway Trust Fund has been in a deficit condition for the past 4 to 5 years, and Congress has only been patching it up. As a matter of fact, just last August, they did I think it's a 10-month extension to the Highway Trust Fund, which means basically they took money from the general revenue accounts of the federal government and funded the Highway Trust Fund so that the U.S. Department of Transportation could continue to fund state DOTs with their annual allocations of funding. At the same time, and we've seen this happening, the federal government is kind of getting out of the business in many respects and looking to the states to fund more and more of the transportation and infrastructure investments. And as that has happened, then the state gas tax comes into play. And so Massachusetts has a state gas tax. It's constitutionally protected by Article 78 of the Massachusetts Constitution, which means they can't spend that money on something else, something other than maintaining the
that's
roads
good.
and bridges.
That's very good.
Yeah, it really is. So, you know, people are concerned, where does my gas tax money go? Well, I'd like to show
Yeah.
slide 5, if we could, where the tax dollars
Oh, how
are
it's
spent.
distributed? Yeah, that's important to know.
Yeah, because you know, it's important that we understand that when we pay that gas tax, it does support our roads and bridges here throughout the Commonwealth. And it's not just here in Boston, but it's throughout the whole state that we see this program. But like I said, we have over 50% of the bridges are functionally obsolete. We have today, I think it's today, we have 27 bridges that are closed in Massachusetts.
Because of condition.
Because of condition. And interestingly enough, we talk about the pavement. Roadway conditions are responsible for about 1/3 of the traffic fatalities
Wow.
that we endure here in
We
Massachusetts.
think about bridges all the time, but maybe not about roads as much.
That's right, that's right. And those pavement conditions can be potholes, can be, you know, rough surfaces, it can be, you know, I think in the summer you see it where the heavy trucks kind of create little ridges in the
Oh,
road
yes.
pavement. And,
Yeah, ruts,
and
right.
someone unaware might be trying to change lanes, and that can throw them right out of kilter. So those kinds of things are very important. So really what we're talking about when we're talking about maintaining our transportation system is public safety.
Wow, so you said 1/3?
1/3.
I was actually unaware of that statistic.
Yeah.
That's kind of alarming to me.
Well,
I
it
wasn't
is.
aware of that.
It is, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it is a major factor that we have to be aware of.
On a sort of different note, I mean, we've only had, I give tours of the city of Boston's bridges all the time. One of the points I try to make is, you know, back only 100 years ago, this was really the year that everybody was getting cars. Roads had a totally different purpose before that. And,
This is true.
And only a handful,
Cowpaths.
yeah, and only a handful of the structures, you know, that we have are second generation. Everything is the first idea that came out back when not everybody even had a car, and nobody could expect what the traffic was.
Sure.
How has Massachusetts been dealing with that kind of issues where, I mean, the reason why things are,
Retrofitting, changing capacity.
yeah, and the
I mean,
same
how
thing,
do
we
you-
were
can't
the
really
cutting
do it.
edge on our subway system. We were the first.
That's right.
Yeah.
But we were the first. When you're the first, you know, you've got it.
Population was a
When
lot
when you
smaller.
build it, right, when you build it, you got to meet the needs of it.
You got to maintain it. That's right.
Yes, and actually that was interesting to me. You brought up the fact that we're protected by law to some degree. We do have one secure fund, but you said
Yes.
they're using patching from taking money from a general fund.
Well, that's
So
at the
that's-
federal level.
That's at the
That's
federal
the federal
level. Okay, so at
yeah.
the state level,
At the
they don't
state level,
necessarily do that.
they just use the gas tax money going into the transportation fund.
Oh.
But to Reed's point, you know, the bridges that we have in Massachusetts, many of them, well, I think the median age of bridges in Massachusetts is just over 42 years.
Yeah.
Now, that means the median, so that means
Right.
we have many bridges out of those 5,000 that are well over 42 years. In fact, the oldest bridge in Massachusetts still in
Sure.
use is over 100 years old. The Longfellow Bridge in Boston is going under a fantastic renovation, restoration
Yeah,
project.
beautiful.
An expensive project, maintaining the operation of the Red Line at the same time that the roadway and the structure is being restored, expanding the capacity for pedestrian and bicycle use of the bridge. So there's a good example of, you know, addressing the mobility needs of two communities, Boston and Cambridge. But when I say two communities, Boston and Cambridge, you have to recognize that, you know, the Longfellow Bridge carries people every day from all parts of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And, you know, it is, you know, they call Boston the hub for an obvious reason. You know, a lot of people come here. And the mobility here in Massachusetts, in Boston, is so critical to the economy, to the well-being, to the quality of life that people have come to expect. And, you know, again, getting back to Reed's point, you know, we ought to have a top-notch transportation system. We deserve it. We are Massachusetts, and we
Yeah.
deserve the best.
Sure, I'm going to agree with that.
I agree.
because
And every
I'm
day
a
we
commuter,
see-
so I totally agree.
We
Right.
see more and more companies actually finding their home base here as well. More movies being filmed here. Like,
Right.
But
we
not
really
just
are
in
a hub.
Boston, as you said. I think it's important to note that, you know, all those town engineers, you know, they're out there. They're
That's right.
getting what they need out of these funds. Hopefully, I know
Right.
I'm sure they're working really, really hard.
Right.
But can you tell us? You know, you were talking about how Mass DOT has become a little bit more streamlined and reformed. Can you tell us what you mean by that, and maybe some of the things that they highlight, some of the projects that they've done that
Sure.
speak to that?
Sure. Well, when MassDOT was reorganized or organized in 2009, they took the Mass Highway Department, they took the MBTA, they took the Metro Highway System, which was part of the Turnpike system, and they merged those into a single agency. And then about a year later, the Turnpike itself got merged in to MassDOT. They have a very close working relationship with Massport, which is our other big transportation agency here in Massachusetts. So once MassDOT was able to bring those resources together, and for example, the MBTA has wonderful engineers who know a lot about bridges, and the Mass Highway Department had wonderful engineers who know a lot about bridges, but never could they work together. Well, now they
Now
do
they
work
can,
together.
right.
And they work together very effectively. And that Longfellow Bridge project that I brought up is a good example of those agencies really working together. Because, you know, if this was pre-MassDOT, you would have had the MBTA fighting the Highway Department about,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
protect the Red Line at all expense and so forth. You know, now they're working together, and it's a very cooperative arrangement. Another great example is the Fast 14 project that they did a
was
few
great.
years ago
I think you had a
on
slide of that,
I-93. We do have a slide of that.
I think it's
Number
slide
6.
6. Yeah, there's a nice picture there.
Yeah.
But explain to us about that.
Yeah, and what they were able to do was to, well, first off, what's important to understand is why they did the Fast 14. And some folks, I'm sure, in the audience will remember the day when all of a sudden they had to close I-93 northbound.
Oh, yes, I
Yeah,
remember that.
Because a bridge collapsed, and it was a great big hole in the ground, and you know, they just had to close the whole system. And so when we react to those emergencies, all of a sudden we can do all kinds of things. And so the patching was done, you know, everybody pulled together and got the patching done. But then they looked up and down that stretch of the highway, and they said, we've got 14 bridges here that the same thing could happen to at almost
Oh,
any
yeah.
moment. And so they knew they couldn't just shut down the whole system for, 2 or 3 years to replace those bridges.
Right.
So they very effectively worked and came up with a strategy where they did a lot of nighttime work, a lot of weekend work. They would divert traffic from one side of the highway to the other. There were some inconveniences, nights and weekends, but that project was done in record time, and MassDOT was recognized nationally for that work.
I know I saw a lot of awards. They
A lot of
headed
awards.
a lot of awards.
And
for that.
I thought the public was just, I thought the whole key was everybody was so well informed and knew what was
Yes.
going on
Yes.
that everybody appreciated the work being done. That
That's
was
right.
Actually a kind of rare treat in
Yes,
a way to see
yeah.
people really appreciating
Yeah.
it.
And they really are trying to carry that forward into all the projects that they're doing. And so they're looking at design build options. They're looking at a different number of different delivery methods that they can use in order to expedite the project. The fact of the matter is, though, of those 2,000 and something bridges that they have to address, they need more money to do it. And
Right.
they don't have adequate funding under the current scenario.
Okay, and just to keep it a little bit interesting and see, other than, everyone kind of knows the Longfellows and the Fast 14, like we said, was nationally realized. But can you tell us what in the area? Give us a hint of just a couple of projects that you either know they really need some love and attention, or that maybe.
I think we can go to the
They're
last
either
couple of
ongoing right
slides.
now.
Yeah, we have a couple of slides towards the end, which show the 93 South Overpass.
Oh, in Somerville.
ramp
I
in
know this
Somerville.
one, yes.
Yes,
Yep, I know
yeah.
that.
My goodness.
Yeah, and that is just an illustration of such an important element of the transportation system. So many people use that every day. And this is one of those deferred maintenance issues where they've done the patching. MassDOT is not going to let us down.
Right.
They're going to do what has to be done to keep the system together as best they can. But that doesn't mean that they're doing it the way they want to do it, the way they did it with the Fast 14. And so it's really critical that we address those kinds of significant structures that are so critical to mobility on a daily basis. Another, if they can get to the other slide, North Washington Street Bridge, right over to Charlestown. Another one, just showing the deferred maintenance.
Oh, yeah.
that
That's for a while that's been like that.
Yes, yeah. And that's been one of the challenges that MassDOT has is through the Accelerated Bridge Program, they were able to expedite a number of projects, and they reduced the number of structurally deficient bridges from something over 500 to under 450 or 460, something in that range, over the past 3 years. But that was a program with the Accelerated Bridge Program where they borrowed money, they got advanced credit from the Federal Highway Administration, and so with that Accelerated Bridge Program, they were able to address 20, 30, 40 bridges, whatever it was, I forget the exact number. But that's only out of 2,000.
Right.
So
It's a start.
It's
Some
a
of the
start.
worst
It's an
ones, but-
important start, but it demonstrates the responsibility that MassDOT has taken, and that they need to address those things, and they need to do it in a concerted effort.
And I know we really only just talked about those last two slides, but you brought very good examples, that I have witnessed myself in various places, Pittsfield, Greenfield, Natick, so
Right.
there's need out there.
That's
We
right.
absolutely need to get it done.
Well, Anna Christina and I live up in the Lowell area, and last August on 495, a woman was driving on 495 northbound lane and went under one of the bridges right near Lowell and Chelmsford, and a big hunk of metal fell on her car. Fortunately, she was not injured, but she certainly didn't make her day.
No, definitely not.
Absolutely.
I remember that.
Or anyone else stuck in traffic behind us.
Right.
So we're actually getting down to our last.
We did. We
last
had one
minute
little
here, but
little fun. I had
Okay.
a fun
Yep.
question, more personal question. We always try to get something fun in there. I'm wondering, what do you think it would take for me to campaign for a little transportation funding to go into creating the Star Trek transporter device?
Well, I would think that
How
you
much
would.
begging do you think I would have to
Yeah,
do?
yeah, I would think that you would have to get both the gubernatorial, all 5 gubernatorial candidates on board with that idea.
Darn.
You can try. You can try. They get along.
Well, we want to really thank you, Dennis Coffey. You've been a fantastic guest, and I'd love to do even more. If you know of anything coming on with one of these projects where they maybe get something like a Fast 14 program going, we'd love to get some
Great.
in-depth footage with you.
Definitely.
Great.
Thank you,
Checking
Dennis.
Oh,
I got
you're
a
welcome.
couple
Thank
of,
you.
couple of announcements I got to make before we go off. Future City competition for grades 6, 7, and 8. It's open for registration till the end of the month on Halloween, and this is where you dream up your dream city of the future, and then you have to explain how all the systems work. The other thing is the Model Bridge Contest will kick off on October 25th, and we can't tell you what the materials are. It's a top secret, but it's the 21st year, and it's a very, very cool material. That's all I can say.
Yes,
And it'll be.
I agree.
And
I
it'll-
always love the materials, though,
and
really.
we've actually been working on the specs behind the scenes with Olivia,
She's doing a great job.
doing a great job. It's going to be a great contest. So everybody go to engineeryourfuture.org and you can learn more about it.
And think
And of course, ThinkFest is October 25th. We'll be passing out the materials that day, and we're going to have a Think session on Future City where we talk about urban farming. And I've got some urban farmers coming that day to talk about that.
Well, that's great. And I recently had somebody ask me if their 9-year-old was too young to go to ThinkFest, and I said, no, that's
No.
actually a great age
Any
to
age,
go.
any age.
Definitely. Well, we want to thank you once again for joining us, and Dennis, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And we will definitely see you next month.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.